Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here in the Scoop studio at SMTAi in Chicago. I'm joined by Ranko and Joel to discuss artificial intelligence. Kind of different opinions. I want to start with you, Ranko, because when we talked about this off stage, you told me you've been doing artificial intelligence for 20 years, so it's not a new thing. Tell me kind of how AI has developed within your business and how you see it operating in the SMT environment.
Well, nowadays we have a lot of hype about AI, and that's a big problem because hype almost killed AI 2-3 times last 30 years. Because there's some development, there's a lot of hype, there's a disappointment, and everything gets killed. So I'm very worried about the current hype. AI is, there are some areas where AI can be used, but it's not a miracle. It's far from that. Elon Musk says that AI will control the world. That implies that AI is smarter than people, and that will not happen for many, many years, not in my lifetime at least. But if you use for certain areas where you have a large amount of data available and you can train and properly design artificial neural network, those are good applications. So we started using in our company about 20 years ago for production scheduling and machine optimization. And those are areas, we remember we applied genetic algorithm for chip shooter optimization. And we were able to get optimization that is 5% better than machine algorithm because of that. And we incorporated that in our software, and big companies have been using, except we never advertised because that was like, whoa, you're a weirdo if you advertise AI. That was before recent hype. So right now we are involved, well, I can talk later about current projects, but we've been applying artificial intelligence in our software for 20 years.
Yeah, okay. Joel, when I look at it from your point of view, you're market leader in your space, you're kind of constantly pushing barriers, constantly coming out with innovation, and the idea that you can create intelligence within your system that can then feed back and make other processes better. I guess that's kind of a starting point for an AI application.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it all starts, as Ranko said, with the data, right? Because we are a 3D company and we output in true measurement, parametric, again, very black, white, concrete data, we can then apply that. We can apply the automation to do different things with that. So initially, certainly we want to look at ways to do that to make our systems more efficient, more intuitive, from a programming standpoint, from a data analysis standpoint, from a communicating AOI, SPI, and potentially, even maybe controlling, right, just to some degree. And again, we talked a little bit about how we're doing that with the screen printing process with our KPO product and what the plans are going forward for that. But I think that's really the key, And then from there, obviously, we have a lot of partners in the market, in the industry, and ultimately to achieve the Smart Factory initiative, we have to be able to allow them access to a lot of this data and be able to pass and push so they can do with it and we can do with theirs to make, again, the entire line more efficient. Obviously the goal here is higher yields, lower costs, better bottom line for our collective customers. Right?
Yeah, so it's all about efficiency. And I feel Ranko's paying with respect to this. I think IDC define it as the valley of disappointment, and it is just after things go over the hype peak and they crash through there. And looking at some of the technology or some of the terms we were using at the Hanover Fair this year, a lot of stuff about AI, a lot of stuff about augmented reality, a whole lot of stuff about digital twin, those kind of stuff. That kind of stuff's being discussed. Are customers coming to you and saying, "Hey, what's your AI roadmap look like? What are your plans?"
We certainly are hearing that more and more. The whole Industry 4.0 thing is starting to drive that.
Yeah.
So the whole data usage, data analysis, data sharing thing has really stepped up in terms of interest just over the last couple of years. So I think there's still a lot of what's the right word? Maybe uncertainty in terms of where that's going and what kind of protocol we're going to have to communicate machine to machine with all the various players that are involved. But certainly I think people are catching on to the fact that this is now maybe the next wave, right? We have maybe hit a little bit of a plateau from a hardware perspective. Software processing power, all of those things now potentially lead us down a new path for the next expansive growth, right?
Yeah.
The next industrial revolution, right?
So, Ranko, when you look at that from your point of view, you wrote a really interesting piece recently that I think you presented in NEPCON Shenzhen, but also came out as an article in Circuit Assembly that I read. You talked very much there about islands of intelligence, the ability to have intelligence in specific parts of the factory, and for that to then create a holistic solution. Is that thinking that is actually being applied in SMT at the moment?
Well, again, we are now talking to our existing customer to do a project like that, smart machine, smart SMT, smart pick and place machine that will, again, do the automatic changeover, change the programs when it gets a signal, when actually schedules itself, but not only that, but be able to apply artificial intelligence in for predictive maintenance. So it will monitor what state it is and then send alarms, come help me, or do this repair because I'm going to break in 6 hours. So that's something that artificial intelligence can do. Artificial intelligence is very good in predicting if you have good data to train your network. So the predictive maintenance can be done with the AI application, process control. And so we are trying now to design an intelligent machine. And what are the segments there that we need, how to program, how to set up change, how to do the maintenance. It's very important. There's no Industry 4.0 if your machine is going down too often. It has to be a very reliable machine. And the ultimate goal, in my opinion, is a plant without operators. I'm not going to get into social implications about that. But I think the ultimate goal is plant without operators, and to achieve that, you need reliable equipment. So we want to do we want to design smart machines that will actually perform all those tasks, but also the industry has to design better machines for Industry 4.0 because the current design doesn't support that.
Okay, so they need to be more reliable, they need to be smarter, they need to be more flexible, more agile.
And much easier to set up and do the changeovers. But I want to follow up just for a second on a previous question. I get a lot of questions about artificial intelligence and Industry 4.0, but not in the United States. I got questions in Mexico and a lot of questions in Asia. You go to China and they're all crazy about that, but it's not happening in the United States a lot. People are still reluctant to talk about that at all, except the largest company.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. And again, the social thing you mentioned very briefly. China's much more honest about that and more straightforward. There obviously is a social impact. That's a different debate, but there is definitely. You take Mexico, for example, most of Mexico is running at 90% plus capacity. A lot of the US isn't running anywhere near 90% capacity, so the line-up time is perhaps not considered as critical, but these are all things that are going to be really important to them when they do start to deploy intelligent strategies within their factory. Last question, how do you see this developing? If we just you talked about the factory with no operators. I think it's what people would refer to as the lights out manufacturing. If we project 3 or 4 years forward, how far do you see us getting in terms of that, and how do you see the manufacturing environment looking?
Well, we will get nowhere if all we talk about is digitization and big data. People have no idea what it means. You go to a seminar or panel, it's all digitization and big data. I have no idea what they're talking about. And people in the plant, they don't want to hear about it. We somehow need to get it down to the level where people can see benefits of Industry 4.0 and practical solutions. Because right now, people don't want any part of that except, again, German people and people in Asia and people that have a lot of money to spend on that, to try. Mid-sized companies want no part of that right now because they don't understand what we are talking about.
Yeah. And what they need to understand, Joel, is the tangible benefits to them. Where are they going to get that higher yield? Where are they going to get that better utilization? Where are they going to get that better flexibility within their own process?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And what Ranko says is very true. We have to show them benefit, right? We have to show them real benefit from these steps that we're taking to implement. Right? And I think through that, then things will expand, and as we continue to work with our partners, we can do more, show more, but it's got to be real output. It's got to be a tangible benefit that they can touch, feel, and again improve their bottom line. Right? That's what it's all about. So.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think for me that's what it's all about. It's focus on real cases that deliver real value, and that's what's going to bring the mid-sized companies and the very large companies on board with this technology. Guys, thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for chatting, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.